Haunted by sinister secrets, DUI grandma exposed after discovering she killed 2 children. The whispers crept through Jenna's quiet house at night like a chilling wind, unsettling her to the core. Jenna, the voices danced just out of reach, laced with familiarity that raised hairs on her arms. It was a small-town life she had hoped for, just her kids, and the neighbors, but the comfort had grown suffocating. Shadows lurked at the edges of her vision, and toys rolled across the floor without a soul to push them. She wasn't crazy, she could feel the darkness closing in. Something sinister inhabited her home, balancing a night shift at the diner and her responsibilities as a single mother to Jackson and Lily drained Jenna. The late-night hours meant fewer chances to catch a break and far too many minutes spent in silence, letting her thoughts spiral into fear and doubt. One night, she found herself staring into the void as she scrubbed the kitchen floor, her own reflection whispering back that she was losing it. Just then, she heard Jackson's toy fire truck roll across the living room. She dismissed it, but the chill remained, gnawing at her resolve. Then came Ruth, her seemingly harmless neighbor who often delivered warm apple pies to Jenna's door. Ruth's sweet demeanor was a balm for Jenna's anxiety, someone who understood what it was like to tend to children alone. But Jenna noticed, time after time, that Ruth would linger too long, her eyes flickering toward Jackson and Lily with an unsettling glint. A nagging thought festered. How much did Ruth really know? As the haunting incidents escalated, broken windows and cryptic slips of paper with warnings about her children, Jenna's heart beat faster, the dread tightening its grip. She turned to the internet, searching for solace in local history, but stumbled upon a twisted narrative. A newspaper article revealed a hit-and-run decades ago on her street that claimed the lives of 2 children. The driver? Ruth. A dark shroud hung over the quaint little community, the townsfolk quick to label it an accident and bury the truth. Suddenly, her friendly neighbor was shrouded in darkness. The apple pie aroma turned rancid, like the rotten underbelly of a lie. Just as she was about to face Ruth during the annual neighborhood gathering, Jenna's heart raced. She glanced at the children, oblivious, while she noticed Ruth's wicked smile, a mask that cracked beneath the weight of her attention. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Ruth's eyes glinted as the neighborhood buzzed with cheer, yet panic clawed at Jenna's chest, demanding to be freed. As laughter echoed, tension thickened in the air. Jenna's heart hammered in her ears. She breathed deeply, her resolve hardening. Ruth's facade felt like a barrel of poison waiting to explode. You killed them. You're a murderer. The words erupted from Jenna, echoing through the yard, smothering the camaraderie with shock. A gasp rippled through the crowd, disbelief clouding their faces. Ruth's expression twisted, her innocence dissolving like sugar in vinegar. Instead of retreating, Ruth leaned in close, a predatory smile replacing sweetness. You think you're safe, dear? This is just the beginning. Jenna's stomach dropped as the air thickened with fear. What had she unleashed? With her children still blissfully unaware of the danger lurking so close, Jenna felt the walls of safety crumble. The festive atmosphere had morphed into a nightmare, shadows stretching out like icy fingers. The illusion of security shattered, and terror gripped her tightly. As she realized that trusting the wrong person could cost her everything. Ruth's smile sent a shudder through Jenna, the laughter of neighbors fading into a haunting echo. The weight of Ruth's gaze felt like a noose tightening around her neck. Every fiber of Jenna's being screamed for her to run, but she stood frozen, her mind racing. The tension twisted in the air, thick as thick fog wrapping around her thoughts. What do you mean? Jenna's voice wavered, caught between fear and defiance. Ruth leaned closer, the scent of her perfume no longer sweet but sharp and metallic. Children are fragile, innocent. But sometimes, they get in the way. For a fleeting moment, the mask of charming neighbor cracked further, revealing a glimpse of something dark and twisted. Jenna's heart raced, her breath coming in short bursts. Could this woman be capable of more than just a crime of the past? The words, betrayal, and danger, spun in her mind like a tornado, whirling around all she had ever known. In a panic, Jenna turned, sprinting towards the house, her pulse pounding in her ears. Jackson. Lily. The crowd murmured, confusion flaring. Had they all heard what Ruth said? Her legs felt weak, but adrenaline propelled her forward. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. The toys had rolled back to their corners, and the chill in the air wrapped around Jenna like a vice. She peered into the living room. Empty. She could hear her heartbeat crashing against her ribcage. Where were her kids? Mom? Jackson's small voice broke the silence, pulling Jenna from her spiraling thoughts. Relief flooded through her. She rushed toward the sound, finding him and Lily in the kitchen. They were looking up at her with innocent eyes, the remnants of their snacks scattered across the table. "Mommy, are we staying for the party?" Lily asked, face smudged with chocolate. The innocence of her children made Jenna's blood run cold. It was too easy to forget the perils outside those walls. "No, we're leaving." Her voice came out sharper than intended. The urgency gripped her, drowning out the doubts. She needed to get them away from Ruth. Jenna grabbed their hands, pulling them toward the door. The laughter outside had morphed into sinister whispers, taunting her. "Why don't you trust me, Jenna?" Ruth's voice seemed to slither in from the shadows, a cold chill skimming down Jenna's spine. "Mom!" Jackson cried, tugging at her arm. "Look!" Jenna turned to follow his gaze and froze. Outside, in the yard, Ruth stood, her smile now stretching impossibly wide. With every face in the crowd turned toward Jenna, their expressions morphed into one of horror. The whispers crescendoed, drowning out her thoughts as she saw at the sign Ruth held, a slip of paper flapping in the breeze. "You can't run forever," it read. The ink seemed to shift, obscuring letters that promised untold truths. Panic surged through Jenna like an electric shock. Time seemed to elongate as she tried to decipher the threat. Ruth was more than a neighbor, she was a predator hiding in plain sight. "They want to protect you," Ruth cackled, an eerie sound that made the air crackle. Jenna gripped her children tighter, an instinct kicking in. She needed to act, but the door felt miles away. She cast a desperate glance at the windows, shadows shifting just beyond her vision. The darkness was alive, hungry. Then there was a loud crash from the back of the house. Something or someone was trying to get in. Jenna's heart raced as she faced the door, determination mingling with terror. Ruth wasn't just a threat anymore, she was an impending storm, and Jenna was at its center. Fingers trembling, Jenna knew she needed a plan. Before she could move, Ruth's voice pierced the chaos. "You think you can shield them? Oh dear, the game is just beginning." The shadows deepened, anticipation humming in the air. Jenna's world felt like it was spiraling out of control. Then, in the distance, a scream rang out, and the realization hit her hard. What if they weren't the only targets? "Mom!" Jackson's plea tore through her panic. Could this be the moment everything changed? The hunt began. Desperate to shield her children, Jenna made her choice, heart thundering. She knew she had to confront the darkness head-on. What if Ruth had a plan more sinister than she imagined? Would she be able to keep her children safe amid the encroaching shadows? And what would happen next? Jenna felt the walls of her house closing in, choking off her breath. The crash at the back sent her adrenaline soaring. Clutching Jackson and Lily, she whispered, "Stay quiet." She could feel the panic cocked like a gun at her temple. A sudden burst of fear surged through her when she realized, they must be trying to get in here. Trembling, she pressed her back to the door, listening. The sound of footsteps shuffled from the back of the house, soft but insistent, like the creeping of a nightmare. Shadows danced on the walls, flickering with the growing light outside. She caught a glimpse of Ruth's silhouette through the kitchen window, stretching taller, merging with the darkness. Ruth wasn't simply outside anymore. She was invading their home, her territory. "Mommy!" Lily whispered again, her tiny voice trembling. "We have to move," Jenna breathed. She scooped up Lily while keeping hold of Jackson, frantically feeling for another exit. The front door was a death wish, the back was too. They needed space, an escape. Going through the garage, it would have to be. Jenna led them past piles of boxes and old lawn equipment, her eyes darting around if Ruth had found another way in. The radio buzzed from the corner, a single static note cutting through the air like a warning siren. Mom Jackson's voice squeaked, and she glanced back. He was watching her, his eyes wide, reflecting a fear that sent another surge of panic through her. "Just follow me, okay?" Jenna urged. They squeezed past bicycles and trash cans, cold sweat prickling at the back of her neck. Shadows stretched along the walls, and for a moment, she swore she saw something shift near the door leading to the outside. "Mom! Please!" Jackson whimpered again. Ruth's laughter slithered through the garage door, curling around Jenna's bones. "You can't hide, dear. Just give them to me." A bone-deep chill settled in Jenna's stomach. She was playing games with them. They were the pieces. Someone always got hurt in a game. "Grab the keys," Jenna hissed, directing Jackson toward an old toolbox. If the car keys were in there, they could make a run for it. The box rattled as Jackson rummaged through. "Where are they?" Jenna's heart raced. Time was slipping. Ruth's taunts grew louder, each word a dagger. "Don't you dare turn your back on me, Jenna. I'll show you what innocence truly costs." Finally, a metal clink rang out. "Got 'em!" Jackson cried, holding up the keys like a trophy. "Good. We gotta go, now." Jenna hustled them out of the garage and through the side door, her feet pounding against the cool grass of the backyard. The street beyond felt like safety in a raging storm, but the shadows behind them continued to creep closer. Lily squirmed in her arms, a sweet but panicked look on her face. "I don't like this, Mommy. We're almost free," she reassured, even as doubt clawed at her insides. The car sat parked a silver refuge. Just as they reached the vehicle, an ear-splitting crash erupted from the back of the house, the sound reverberating like gunfire. Jenna flinched, her heart hammering. "Go! Get inside!" She shoved Jackson into the passenger seat and rushed back to buckle Lily in. But seconds stretched like hours. As she slid into the driver's seat, the engine roared to life. The world felt suspended, every second fraught with uncertainty. She took a quick glance at the house behind her. The windows glared back, empty and dark, swirling with dread, her breath hitched. She could have sworn she saw a figure lurking just beyond the edge of the shadows. "Ruth! Mom, hurry!" Jackson yelled, pointing to the rearview mirror. Jenna's heart dropped. In the reflection, Ruth stood just outside the threshold, the darkness swirling around her, her smile wider, teeth glinting like a predator, ready to pounce. Jenna slammed her foot down on the gas, the tires screeching as they tore away from that dreadful place. But a single thought echoed in her mind that chilled her to the bone. What if this was just the beginning? As they sped into the night, the horizon tangled with the past, an unsettling chill settled deep in her gut. Ruth was coming. And this time, Jenna wouldn't just have to survive. She'd have to fight back. What other horrors did Ruth have in store? What dark secrets lay buried in their neighborhood, waiting to be unearthed? The car flew down the darkened streets, Jenna gripping the steering wheel like a lifeline. The engine's roar filled the quiet, but it felt frail against the thundering chaos in her mind. Jackson's shaky breaths filled the air, blending with Lily's muffled whimpers from the back seat, a constant reminder of the danger, of Ruth's looming presence. "Where are we going?" Jackson asked, his voice a nervous thread weaving through the tension. "Anywhere but here," Jenna replied, her gaze darting to the rear-view mirror. The streetlights flickered above, and the shadows seemed to stretch longer with every passing second. Just when her pulse began to steady, she caught a flash of white in the corner of her eye, a figure darting past the trees lining the road. Panic surged again, bringing a fresh wave of dread. Her grip tightened as memories flooded her mind. Memories of the house, of long-forgotten laughter twisted into terrifying echoes. "What was that?" Jackson croaked, eyes wide in fear. "Just keep your eyes forward," Jenna commanded, though she could feel their reality unraveling with every mile they traveled. "Do you think Ruth followed us?" Lily's voice was small, innocent, yet booming against the suffocating silence. Jenna didn't answer. She could only focus on the road ahead, trying to keep the shadows at bay. The streets felt oddly empty, though she knew other houses lined them, cloaked in darkness like sinister watchers. Suddenly, the headlights reflected off something in the road, a white glimmer. Jenna slammed her brakes, sending the car skidding to a halt. Her heart raced as she squinted into the night. It was a doll, one of those smiling porcelain types. Its eyes stared at her, dead and haunting, lips painted in an eerie crimson. "What's wrong, Mommy?" Lily whimpered, pressing against her seatbelt. "Nothing, it's just a doll." But it wasn't just a doll, it felt like a message, a remnant of Ruth's game strewn across her path. "Throw it out!" Jackson cried, his tone edging toward hysteria. "I don't want it here." Okay, Jenna nodded, but her hand hesitated as she reached for the door handle. The night air rushed in, cooler than she expected, a reminder of the fear dancing just outside. As she stepped out, the ground felt like it shifted beneath her. Shadows loomed closer and closer. She grabbed the doll with a shiver running up her spine, and right then, a rustle split through the silence, slicing her courage in two. "Jenna." The voice slithered through the darkness. It was that same soft, sickeningly sweet tone. "Ruth," she said, her voice a faint whisper. She turned but saw nothing, only empty streetlights flickering beneath the rising fog. "Mom!" Jackson shouted, eyes darting around as unease filled the car. "Get back in." Jenna's blood ran cold as she rushed back to the car. She threw the doll inside, slamming the door behind her, heart racing. "Drive. Now!" she commanded, and without hesitation, Jackson shifted into gear, tires screeching as they sped down the abandoned road once more. But the scenery began to warp, the landscape becoming unfamiliar, as if they were driving into another world. The houses morphed into grotesque shapes, shadows stretching long fingers across the pavement, and out of the corner of her eye, Jenna saw flashes of figure, a shimmer, a woman with wild hair and crazed eyes standing at each turn. Were they hallucinations, remnants from Ruth's influence? "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Jenna swallowed hard, trying to seem strong, though her heart thundered like an approaching storm. "Me too, sweetheart." Then suddenly, the road forked again, two paths veering from their terror-filled trek. One was drenched in flickering streetlight, illuminating what appeared to be a gathering of shadowy figures in the distance. The other path led deeper into the woods, cloaked in darkness. "Which way?" Jackson asked, panic rising. She clutched the doll, the porcelain face taunting her, a familiar pang of dread tightening her chest. But she sensed Ruth lurking at their heels, closing in, forcing the choice onto her. She had to decide. "Mom, hurry." Jenna felt something shift inside her. The weight of choice bore heavy on her, tangling her fears and her resolve. "Take the left," she shouted, eyeing the flickering lights, the shadows creating a sinister dance around the gathering figures. As they sped forward, a chilling thought unfurled in her mind. What if Ruth was waiting at their destination? What if those figures were already part of her game? The shadows began to clump together, and Jenna's heart seized as she raced toward them. Possibilities swirled. Anything could happen. And then she saw it, Ruth's unmistakable figure, commanding and poised, embracing the darkness as the car lurched toward the heart of the nightmare. "Mom! Look out!" Jackson screamed. What awaited them in the shadows? Would Jenna be able to confront Ruth and uncover the sinister truth, or was she running deeper into a trap? The car shuddered as they plunged into the flickering light, the shadowy figures morphing into view. Jenna's pulse quickened. Each face was twisted, their eyes hollow reflections of fear mirrored back at her. She could feel Lily rear up in terror, her small hands gripping the seat as if trying to anchor herself against an unseen tsunami. "What are they?" Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper, full of dread. "I don't know," Jenna answered, but she was too frantic to think. The ground beneath them thumped like a heartbeat, pulsating with a life of its own. "They look like," Jackson trailed off, eyes wide. "They look like us." A shiver crawled up Jenna's spine. The figures on the side of the road moved closer, coalescing from shadows to distorted impressions of people she loved, friends, family. Faces once familiar twisted into grotesque caricatures, mouths moving soundlessly like they were trapped in a silent scream. "Mom! Drive faster!" Jackson yelled, his voice tightening with urgency. "Hold on." Jenna pressed down on the gas, willing the car to fly past them. But the gathered figures seemed to stretch, reach out like beckoning hands, pulling them closer. "Stop!" One of the figures shouted, its voice a chilling echo that carried through the air, wrapping around Jenna's heart like a vice. "Mommy!" Lily cried, trembling against the seat. "Don't listen. Keep going." Jenna shouted, hyping herself up, even as doubt clawed at her insides. She looked for a way out, some escape from the tightening noose. They were trapped in this bizarre street, this masquerade of horror. As they hurtled forward, a crack split through the air, echoing with such violence that it nearly jolted her from her seat. The car spun, nearly losing control as Jenna fought the wheel. The figures melted back into the shadows, their laughter curling around them like smoke. Shadows that brushed against the windows whispered secrets she could not comprehend, taunting her with soft words laced with malice. "Mom! What's happening?" Jackson yelled, his voice breaking. "Just keep your eyes closed. It'll be okay." Jenna tried to reassure, her own heart fluttering wildly. But she felt anything but okay. Panic seeped into her bones. The whispers grew louder, sharper. "Turn back, Jenna, turn back." She thought desperately. How do you turn back from something that's already chasing you? Without warning, the car's headlights illuminated a sign at the road's edge, its words fading and flickering like a dying flame, "No way out." She slammed on the brakes, sending the car lurching forward, but it didn't stop. It seemed as if the shadows had grown teeth, ready to sink into them. The headlights began to flicker, swallowing the night as the figures congealed above the hood, their faces rising like phantoms from a crypt. "We need to get out, Jenna." Jackson shouted, but the engine quieted, stalling under the weight of the dark. A gentle tap sounded on her window, and they all turned slowly, dread pooling into their stomachs. There stood Ruth, drenched in shadows like it was her natural habitat. Her smile was wide, disturbing, eyes gleaming with dark victory. "Did you really think you could escape?" Ruth cooed, voice syrupy and thick. "You should have turned back when you had the chance." The world outside seemed to warp again, the streetlights dimming, casting them into a void. Jenna felt a cold sweat break across her forehead. Everything inside her screamed to run, to push against the door. But Ruth's gaze anchored her, a spell too strong to break. Then, Ruth lifted a hand and pointed. "This is where the game ends, or perhaps it only starts anew." Jenna's heartbeat thundered in her ears like an approaching storm, the sense of inevitability closing in. "What does that mean?" She stammered, but before Ruth could answer, the shadows lunged, slinking around them, swallowing their cries whole, and in the depth of that consuming darkness, the weight of their past returned, haunting and cruel. What unseen horrors awaited them now, as the echoes of their choices reverberated against the cold metal of reality, in that moment? Jenna understood. They were not just running from Ruth. They were running from themselves. It was a truth they could never escape. Then a voice broke through the haze, almost a whisper, barely audible above the murmur of despair. "Are you ready to play?" And as the darkness wrapped around them, Jenna wondered what price would they pay to unravel the sinister truth. The shadows thickened, suffocating everything in their embrace. Jenna could feel her heart thudding louder than the rolling thunder outside. The darkness pulsed with a sinister life of its own, and fear clawed at her throat, threatening to choke her. "What do we do?" Jackson's voice trembled, reflecting the terror that mirrored in Jenna's eyes. "Just think. We can't panic." She shifted her focus, glancing at Lily in the back seat. The little girl's eyes were wide, glistening in the pale light. She looked frozen, caught in the web of fear they had spun. A low hiss crept through the car, distracting Jenna from her thoughts. It was Ruth's laughter, a sound like crumbling leaves, curling around them like fog. "You've lost already," she taunted, stepping closer. Jenna's breath hitched. "No. We're not done." The words burst from her lips as if they could sever the claws of despair digging into her chest. Ruth's smile widened, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "You were wrong to think you could outrun the shadows, little dove. They're woven into your very being." The headlights flickered and then sputtered out altogether, plunging them into darkness. Jenna slammed her fists against the steering wheel, seeking answers from a realm that had gone silent. The world outside felt alive, breathing in discordant rhythm, as if it was both watching and waiting. "Mom, can't you start the car?" Jackson pressed, fear creeping into his voice. I don't know what's wrong." Panic bubbled to the surface, clawing at her composure. As if sensing her despair, Ruth's laughter filled the air again, taunting, echoing in her ears. "Ah, the struggle always makes for such delightful entertainment. What do you want?" Jenna shouted, feeling hopeless. She gripped the wheel, muscles tense, ready to bolt at any moment. "The game," Ruth said, tilting her head in a way that made Jenna's skin crawl. "You've already chosen your players." A shuffle broke the silence, footsteps crunching on gravel outside. Jenna's heart leaped into her throat. "What was that?" "It's just the game," Ruth whispered sweetly, as if trying to soothe a frightened child. "And remember, only one of you can win." Without warning, the rear door of the car swung wide. Jenna turned in surprise, expecting to see more shadows swarm in. But instead, it was a dim glow illuminating their surroundings. A flickering lamp stood on the edge of the road, radiating a sickly yellow light. "Get in." A familiar voice called from the light. It was a figure from her past, a friend lost too soon. Jenna's heart clenched painfully. "Is it real?" she whispered, glancing back at Ruth. "Are you real?" "Don't trust her," Ruth hissed, moving dangerously close, her face twisted in mockery. The glow pulsed, urging her closer, pulling her towards the faint memory of laughter and warmth. "Follow it, Mom," Jackson urged, the desperation painted across his face. I can't leave you," Jenna shouted, torn between the light and the chilling darkness that slithered around them. "A choice, Jenna," Ruth crooned, her voice dripping with malice. "A choice must be made, but remember there's always a consequence." The shadows shivered, the air thickening with tension. Jenna felt paralyzed, fear glued her to the seat, but Jackson's hand gripped her arm. "Mom! Please!" With the creeping darkness closing in, Jenna's head spun. Which way to go? The pull of familiarity or the cold grip of doom? She glanced back at the open door where the light promised a way out but also felt like a betrayal against everything she believed in. "Are you ready to play?" Ruth asked again, her voice whispering like silk wrapped around steel. Time slipped through Jenna's fingers. Would they escape or succumb to their pasts? As the shadows flicked towards them, she knew in that moment whichever choice they made would change everything. What will it be, the light or the darkness? At that last question, Jenna felt the final moment slip away. Would they embrace what lay ahead? Or would they face the terrifying truth of what they had become? Jenna's heart hammered as the shadows pulled closer, threatening to engulf them. She wanted to scream, to object, to push against the darkness pressing in, but all she could do was stare into the glow. The warmth it radiated almost felt like an invitation, but Ruth's chilling laughter clawed at her senses, pulling her back to the present. "Make your choice, Jenna," Ruth taunted, stepping closer, her form flickering like smoke in the shifting light. "Your past or your future?" The ground outside the car felt unstable, as if it teetered on the edge of something indescribable. Jenna could hear the gravel crunching under unseen feet, and terror twisted in her gut. "Mom, I can't breathe," Jackson whimpered, his voice almost a whisper. She turned to him, seeing his eyes filled with despair, and it shattered something inside her. "Hold on!" she yelled, gripping the steering wheel with desperation, summoning every ounce of courage she had left. "Just hold on." But the raging storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest brewing in her heart. She took a deep breath, forcing back the panic. "I won't leave you. I won't let her win." "Then you'll forfeit your only chance," Ruth purred, her lips curling into a sinister smile. "Choose the light, and you choose the past. The darkness offers a sweeter fate if you dare." "Mom!" Lily cried out, her voice breaking through the chaos. "I'm scared." The flickering light pulsed, its glow intensifying as if the universe itself were eating up the shadows around it. Ruth's laughter echoed louder, drowning out Lily's fear. Jenna was torn, every second stretching like eternity. She could grab the light, but at what cost? "Please!" Jackson gasped, his small body shaking. "Just help us." With a rush of adrenaline, Jenna slammed the door shut. "No!" she shouted, defiance charging through her. "I won't play your game." The darkness quivered, shadows whipping around the car like a vicious wind. Ruth recoiled, momentarily taken aback. "Such spirit!" she cackled. "But you think it's that easy?" The ground shook beneath the car. Cold dread washed over Jenna as she glanced out the window. The pale glow flickered, then vanished, then, silence. "Mom?" Jackson's voice trembled, breaking through the quiet. The tension in the air was suffocating. Ruth stared at them, her eyes glinting with malevolence. "Goodbye, little dove. Your defiance will not go unpunished." Suddenly, a screeching sound filled the air, metal on metal, a horrific noise that sent shivers down Jenna's spine. The engine hissed and sputtered, then fell silent, plunging them deeper into darkness. The windows became ethereal canvases for clawing shadows, swirling like wraiths searching for something or someone. What felt like ice slid through the cracks, invading the car. Ruth's laughter morphed into a cacophony, wrapping them in dread. "Jackson, do you see anything?" Jenna asked, panic creeping back into her voice. "No. It's too dark," he cried, his breath quickening. She felt his fingers tremble against her arm, a shared terror that bound them tighter than any chains. "Lily?" Jenna called, her voice a whisper, bracing herself against the sudden lurch of her heart. "I'm right here, Mommy," came the small voice, shaky but resolute. In that moment, Jenna realized they were not just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for their very souls. "Stay close," she commanded, trying to sound braver than she felt. Shadows loomed like giants, and the whispering darkness seemed to close in with a life of its own. "What will it be?" Ruth's voice dripped with venom. Fear or salvation? Jenna felt her resolve fraying. A flash of light ignited behind the shadows, illuminating a figure standing just outside. Hope wrestled with despair as she squinted, trying to see through the smog of night. Was it another ghost? An illusion? Trust me. The figure shouted. The voice was familiar, but the shadows warped its features. Was this finally heralding salvation, or another cruel test? The shadows were hungry, and the whispers insinuated her darkest fears. Oh God! Jenna whispered, the weight of consequence hanging heavy. What now? The looming darkness beckoned, threatening to consume them. Time was running out. The choice was more daunting than ever, and as the shadows drew closer, Jenna knew the next decision might end everything or awaken a power she never knew they had. Will they let us go? She thought, fear pulsing through her veins. Or will this be the end of the game? Jenna's heart raced faster than ever. The figure outside flickered again, barely visible through the encroaching darkness. Trust me. It called, again, that haunting tone that felt so familiar. It was one of her own, but from where? Mom, who is it? Jackson's voice trembled, pulling her from her hazy thoughts. She felt the weight of something heavy in her chest, a fear draped in uncertainty. Stay calm, Jackson, she managed, though her mind was a whirlwind. The shadows approached with a slithering movement, creeping along the edges of the car, insidious and relentless. Mommy? Lily's voice broke. What if it's a trick? Those words dug into Jenna's resolve, but she couldn't let her children drown in fear. She forced a smile, masking the dread that clawed at her throat. We'll make it. I promise. The dark mass outside pulsed, growing bolder. Ruth's laughter echoed once more, chilling Jenna's bones. You think you can just decide? Choose light or darkness, nothing in between. What will you sacrifice? Silence smothered her words, swirling in the air heavy with dread. The shadows danced around the car, swaying, mocking like specters in a twisted, supernatural performance. Listen to it, Ruth spoke softly, a deceptive silkiness to her tone. Choose fear, and you know what they say about the past, don't you? It always comes back to haunt you. Find the light. Urged the figure. It seemed to stretch, reaching for them. I can save you. Jenna felt a flicker of hope igniting in her chest, but with it, something electric pulsed. What do you mean? She shouted against the void. Who are you? I'm your past, Jenna, and I'm your only way out. Get away from the window. Jenna shouted, almost instinctively shielding her children from the malicious apparition swirling like smoke outside. But even as she spoke, an edge of desperation clawed at her. What if the figure was the key? The key to her escape? Mom! Jackson shook her arm, eyes darting in the dark. I can't see anything. Suddenly, there was a crack of sound, sharp and electrifying. An impact against the car shimmered, a blow that sent them lurching sideways. The glass trembled, forming spiderwebs under the pressure. Jenna gasped, pressing against the dashboard, anchoring her family. It's here. Lily shrieked, as a shadow slithered past the windshield, dancing in the remnants of the fading glow. Ruth's laughter erupted into a cacophony, drowning out their plea for safety. You thought the past was just memories? It's here. It's woven into your souls. Now I'll show you. Panic gripped Jenna, her mind raced. What if we don't make it through? The uncertainty loomed larger than the shadows dancing outside. A glimmer flickered across the figure's face. Was it regret? Jenna couldn't tell anymore. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing the world around her to vanish. What do I have to lose? She thought. I've already lost so much. Help us. Jackson cried, his voice cutting through the chaos. As if on cue, the shadows surged against the car, a torrential wave of malice trying to crush them. Jenna felt the breath leave her chest. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened, knuckles white. "Look for it," the figure yelled. "Trust your instinct. There's power in your fear." Power? Was that what she needed to focus on? The memories slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. There were things she'd buried deep, secrets that clawed at her wanting to break free. The darkness hummed with anticipation, a predator ready to pounce. "Choose." Ruth's taunting voice filled the air, wrapping around her psyche. "The light or me?" The shadows pressed harder against the car. Jenna felt moisture pooling in her eyes. Her children's faces reflected a desperate plea for safety that tore through her very soul. "Mom." Jackson's voice sharpened, brimming with tension. The figure's faint glimmer illuminated the claustrophobic space, urging her to act. But as the darkness transformed into solid forms, squeezing their world tighter, Jenna realized the truth. To find redemption, she'd have to confront what she'd hidden from herself, even if it meant exposing the darkest corners of her heart. "Hold on," she shouted, determination igniting. The shadows shrieked, and suddenly, she felt an energy surge inside, raw and untamed. Let us break free. But would unleashing that power cost her everything? As she seized that moment, she couldn't help but wonder, what ancient secrets waited for discovery in the heart of darkness? And was she prepared to embrace the truth she had so diligently avoided? Jenna's shout hung in the air, pulsing with a fierce urgency. The shadows thrashed against the car like wild beasts, their whispers clawing at her sanity. For a brief moment, it felt as if the world around them had come alive, intent on devouring them whole. "Mom, what do we do?" Jackson whimpered, his breaths quickening, his wide eyes searching her face for a spark of hope. "Hold on tight." Jenna barked, her voice echoing with the determination she was trying to summon. She pressed the accelerator, hoping to break free of this suffocating nightmare. The car lurched forward, tires screeching against the gravel. Suddenly, a force slammed against the back of the vehicle. Each jolt shot adrenaline through Jenna's veins. "Oh God!" Lily cried out, and the terrified sound cut deeper than the darkness surrounding them. "Go! Go!" Jackson yelled, his fists clenched tightly at his side. The figure outside began to form more distinctly, its outline piercing through the shadows. "Find the light!" it cried, desperation lacing its tone. It felt familiar, yet wrong, alluding to something Jenna desperately wished to deny. The car swayed perilously, as the shadow things curled like angry serpents around the wheels and flanks. Jenna strained her gaze to see, to grasp that flickering essence of hope, but it was overshadowed by the looming darkness swallowing everything. "Please, trust me." The figure pleaded again, but Jenna held back. Fear tethered her instincts. "Why should we trust you?" she shouted back, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Because you know the truth. You can't escape it much longer. All you have to do is face it." The brutal impact from the darkness crashed again, sending the car heaving. "Mommy!" Lily cried, tears streaking down her child's face. Jenna could hear the fear in her daughter's voice, a sound that reverberated through her very bones. The warm swath of innocence was now drenched in despair. Ruth's laughter infiltrated Jenna's thoughts once more. "They'll never forgive you, Jenna. You can't outrun your sins." The words took shape like icy fingers curling around her heart. Jenna's mind raced to confront the truths buried deep in her past, the fleeting glimpses of faces, moments too painful and haunting to recall. "Mom, look!" Jackson's urgency snapped her thoughts back. The figure stood poised, its hands calling them, but it wasn't right. It felt twisted. "Stop!" "No!" Jenna yelled, throwing the car into reverse. But the shadows lunged, wrapping tendrils around the vehicle, pulling it back as if trying to claim them. Jenna screamed as sheer force enveloped them, darkness threatening to swallow her whole. "Confront it, Jenna," the figure urged, its voice rising above the chaos. "You have to confront it. It's your only escape." Desperation clawed at her throat. Jenna's heart raced as fleeting memories flashed, laughter echoed, joy intertwined with guilt. The car jerked, teetering on the brink. "Mom, we can't hold on much longer," Jackson cried, fear twisting his young face. Panic rose like bile in Jenna's throat. I. But then, as if a dam was breaking, Jenna felt the rush of power surge through her. The memories, the shame, the heartache, they coiled together, igniting a spiraling flame within her. "What will you sacrifice?" Ruth's voice taunted from the outskirts of her mind. Cloaked in the chaos, Jenna heard nothing but the pulse of her own heartbeat. She couldn't decide. She didn't want to. And then she understood the truth. It was a choice between facing her fears or letting them consume every last part of her forever. "The light is waiting," the figure whispered, now almost ethereal. "Choose now." Ruth shrieked, the shadows closing in like the eye of a storm. Jenna swallowed hard, her heart hammering against her chest. Would she find the strength to confront her darkness? Or would she let it consume her, and her children's light along with it? Just then, a crackle of energy surged from somewhere deep within, filling her lungs with warmth. "What do I have to lose?" Jenna thought, staring into the darkness, ready to face whatever truth awaited. But what revelation lay at the end of that confrontation? Would the light save them, or would the darkness claim everything she loved? The storm of shadows thrashed against the car, wild forces trying to yank Jenna into an abyss of despair. Ruth's chilling laughter echoed, wrapping around her like a snake ready to strike. Yet, her children's terrified faces broke through the chaos, igniting a spark deep within Jenna. They were her anchor, they were her reason. "Breathe, Jenna," she yelled to herself, each demand igniting courage in her chest. Deep down, she grasped the flicker of truth, a truth she must face if they were to be free. The memories resurfaced, moments prideful and painful, reminders of a past she longed to forget but now needed to confront. "Turn that energy into power," the figure cried from outside, voice held in urgency. Who was it? A car of shadows threatened to swallow them, but in the flickering light, Jenna sensed familiarity, love waiting through confusion. "Choose the light." The figure beckoned again. "Remember the joy, the laughter. Hold on to it. They need you, Jenna. Breathe. Remember. Breathe." Driven by adrenaline, Jenna felt the warmth envelop her. She closed her eyes, picturing the moments of joy, the giggles of Jackson and Lily playing in the backyard, bedtime stories filled with laughter, and the sweet smell of cookies baking. They flooded in, overpowering the darkness creeping closer. Just like that, she connected the dots. She recalled the pain of loss but realized something crucial: the past didn't have to define her. "Enough. Ruth, you can't take my kids," Jenna screamed, her own voice newfound power. She banged the steering wheel, rallying against the cacophony consuming them. The car jolted violently as shadows writhed. Outside, Ruth bristled, her predatory grin faltering as Jenna faced her defiantly. "You're nothing but memories, sick and twisted. Memories that you buried deeper instead of learning from." Ruth spat back, venom dripping from each syllable. "No. You're wrong," Jenna shouted, finding her footing in the darkness. "I won't let you take my children. I will not carry your sins anymore." As she screamed her truth out to the universe, a flicker ignited, a blinding light bursting forth from her heart. It shattered the shadows around them, fracturing Ruth's web of terror. The laughter began to fade, curling into the distance like gathering storm clouds dispersing. The figures outside morphed, shifting from grotesque echoes of fear back to familiar faces of friends and laughter. Then, she felt it, a surge of energy cascading through her, flushing out the darkness, as if a dam had broken. It radiated warmth, wrapping around her children, a comforting glow. "Mommy," Lily cried, sparkling light reflecting in her innocent eyes, pushing back shadows that clung to the edges. Hold your hands together. Jenna commanded, and her children unclipped their seatbelts, clasping their hands like a lifeline. Now close your eyes. Jenna's voice blazed with urgency. As they obeyed, she felt the strength in them rise, a collective force powerful enough to counter the darkness. The car shook violently, glass rattling, as Ruth's form swelled with fury and confusion. No. This isn't how it ends. Ruth howled, but Jenna stood firm, the shadows recoiled, blinding light emerging between them, enveloping the car, illuminating the terrifying night as they anchored themselves together, facing the kind of fear only love could conquer. In that moment, Jenna faced Ruth completely, a steady heartbeat filling her soul. You're nothing but echoes of my past. With that, the warmth in her heart blazed, flaring into a magnificent explosion of light that tore through the shadows. In a flash, Ruth's horrid laughter was replaced by the whispers of the wind, fading into the void. Then came silence. The shadows melted away, the darkness gently releasing its grasp on the world around them. The car sat still, resting on a now sunlit road, the glow of a brand new dawn stretching forth into the horizon. Is it over? Jackson breathed cautiously. Jenna opened her eyes, gazing at the vibrant sun slicing through remnants of the darkness. Yes, my loves, it's over. Gratitude surged through her. They had done it together. But she knew the scars would linger, the past would never disappear entirely. Yet they were no longer shackled to it. She leaned back, tears flowing unbidden down her cheeks. You guys, we are safe now. Jackson and Lily shared a look of relief, but their mother's heart raced, filled with hope, determination, and a promise that they would begin anew, unbound by whispered shadows. Now, we're ready to build our future, Jenna said softly. As they strapped in for what lay ahead, Jenna felt fierce clarity. Life was filled with dark moments, but with her children beside her, she could face it all, and within that dawn, they found not just escape but the courage to move forward, embracing life beyond shadows. Now, if you loved what you just read and want to witness more thrilling tales like this, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Jenna's journey and what happens next. And for God's sake, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world, so let us rise together.